Can you tell me a bit more about this delay?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's incredibly frustrating. Then the government came out at the end of January to say that they were pushing back the planned opening date for the hospital by 2, maybe even 3 years. And as I said at the time, that's deeply concerning for patients, staff and our community, because we need to have a new hospital by 2030, which was the commitment the last government had. And up until that point, it was the one that the Health Secretary assured me he was committed to. So that's why I challenged him in the House of Commons to go faster than that date. And I met with the Health Minister just over a week ago. And obviously one of the key issues I raised with her was about the multi-storey car park and getting approval for the funding so we can start work on that, because that's a key project to get the new hospital going.
So what did she say when you spoke to her about it?
Well, she assured me that there were no issues with going faster if QEH has got the plans in place to do so. In terms of the car park specifically, there are 3 approval stages to get these projects moving through. QEH is very hopeful that the second approval process will be passed shortly, and then hopefully the final one, the full business case, will be signed off, they're thinking, by the end of April, and get work started hopefully in the summer. So it's slower than we would have liked. We've had 7 months where the new government hasn't made any decisions to help bring our new hospital forward. All they've done is made an announcement which potentially delays it by 2 years. So I warned at the election that Labour weren't going to deliver to 2030, and unfortunately that's what looks like could happen now. But the hospital are working very hard and will be trying to convince the government to move faster, because they've got the plans. They said earlier in the year that they were ready to start work on the main hospital next year rather than 2027, 28, which the government thinks. So we've got to persuade the government we can do it, and we've got a plan to do so.
Clearly, people frustrated at the level of progress. What are you doing to reassure constituents that you're putting in the work behind the scenes to make sure it happens?
Well, that's why I raised this repeatedly, since I was elected, but since the election. And in November, the Health Secretary assured me he was committed to 2030 in the previous Conservative government's plans. They then changed the position. I was there in the House of Commons challenging him over the delay and the concern that would cause. And that's why I then met with the Health Minister who's leading the New Hospitals Programme, along with the officials who are running the New Hospitals Programme and are the people responsible for signing off projects, as I say, only a week or so ago, to continue and keep up the pressure, as well as obviously asking lots of parliamentary questions. And the other thing that's happening is the government is going to do a review of each of the RAC hospitals, including the Queen Elizabeth, to check what the status of that is. And that's where I see some sliver of hope that we can get the timetable brought forward, because we've previously been assured, and there was an expert report that said that 2030 was the end of life of the hospital. So unless something's changed, they need to work to 2030. That's what they said previously, and they should stick to the pledge they made at the general election.
We heard from Joe Rust about being people being moved around, patients being moved around, depending on basically which bit of the hospital is okay to use. I mean, that is not a good experience for anybody. But how worried should people be that all this is going to be missed? Because 3 years is not a long time before this hospital expires.
Well, anyone who goes to the hospital, as I do regularly, will see the conditions that the staff are having to work in. They'll also see things like the new community diagnostic centre and the endoscopy unit, where new facilities show how better care can be delivered. So the staff are working in difficult conditions, and patients are obviously in conditions which I don't think are acceptable, which is why I campaigned so strongly in Parliament with local support to get the previous government to make QEH a priority hospital scheme as part of the new hospital programme. And the government, when they came in, having initially said they would review it, then agreed under pressure that it was also a priority. So everyone locally knows the need here. The government has said that they recognise it, and now they've got to live up to the commitments that they've given to make sure we have that new hospital, because it's also costing a lot of money to put in safety measures to keep the hospital somewhere where staff and patients can be safely. And obviously that's something that the trust management who own that risk take incredibly seriously. But if we move to a new facility, then we wouldn't be spending money on literally propping up a building that is soon going to be not fit for purpose.
James Wild, Conservative Member of Parliament for Norfolk North West, thank you for joining me on Breakfast this morning.
Thanks very much.
And in a statement, the